You're not frozen, right? I'm just making sure. Okay. Okay.
Hello and good morning, everyone. We're here with Ginger Z from Good Morning America. Of course, ABC's chief meteorologist. Hi, Ginger. How are you?
It's so good to see your face. It's been a
Right.
long.
It's good to see your face as well. It's been a couple of years now. I haven't seen you since I got engaged on Good Morning America. Thanks to you, and things are good. We have a baby now, so life is good.
Look at that. Look how that works.
I know. So I want to talk to you. First of all, you're in your basement where you're doing Good Morning America from now, and we talked just before we went on the air about how long is it going to be? I mean, some people are saying September. Who knows?
I don't think any of us really know. I know that it's not in the next couple of weeks. I've got that much clear. We're actually there's a crew now making a better set because I've really been doing everything myself, which doesn't always look as good because I am not a professional.
Right.
We're grateful for all the teams that make us look and sound and all of that stuff the best that we can on a daily basis because I've been learning a lot the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I don't know if anybody knows. I think that's the case. And I think just being uber careful and being the most cautious, especially with a position like mine where it really is relatively independent. I use graphics and that's about what I need. And so I think being able to have less people together is the goal, especially in New York City. And that's what we'll keep trying to do.
Well, it's amazing too how far technology has come. Because I know one time you posted a picture. You were doing it from your phone.
Oh yeah, no. Most people that are on TV right now are using their phones. So the iPhone has such great clarity, and I know that that's what a lot of folks are using. I used it for the first couple weeks, and then just because of microphone issues
Yeah.
and power issues, that was really the only reason I changed to a real camera. Otherwise, I thought I even looked better on the iPhone.
Well, and let me ask you, what do you once this is over? How do you see you continuing to do a lot of stuff from home, or what are you seeing? Or are you getting any feedback? I know it's all early and everyone's kind of winging it, but do you foresee yourself doing more stuff at home, especially where they're putting all this work into your studio?
I think we have to. I think that it only makes sense. I think of beyond the coronavirus, beyond all that, to have the opportunity to change our environment and reduce transportation and reduce all of these things, energy and shared energy. I think we should really look at a lot of that stuff as a meteorologist. That's of course important to me. And then, but number one, keeping people safe and healthy. But I also think, just on a personal level, what a moment of pause this has given me, because I would get the question constantly prior to this: how do you do it all? You're traveling, you're writing books, you're doing this. And I'd be like, listen, I'm just trying my best wherever I am, and I focus as much as I can. And I was, and I don't think that was a lie,
Hmm.
but I don't think the absolute best for me. So I think a lot of people are going to be reassessing now that they've had their priorities shifted, not by their own choice. And that's something that I have to look at. And I believe everybody, not just in our company, but in the world, is going to be looking at too.
I was talking to a minister a couple weeks ago, and we talked about obviously it's not, you don't want to see death, and there's, you can't say this is a good thing, but it really has allowed people to reevaluate. Hey, I'm home more with the kids, and I'm kind of liking this, and I'm doing, it just, I think before we were all going so fast. And this has really forced us to slow down. And we're like, hey, maybe naturally this is the way we're supposed to be. And the cool thing is, even if you can be home a couple more days a week, so that's, 2 hours you're not or in makeup and traveling, and an hour home, and, it's 3 or 4 hours of your day that you get back that you get to spend with your family. And that's it's a cool thing that we're discovering. And obviously you didn't want to do it this way, but I'm sure there's been some advantages to it for sure.
Oh, this spring, the last 8 week or 6 weeks, I was supposed to be traveling and on an airplane an average of about every other day. I mean, that's how much I had planned: book tours, speeches, different events, and live shots for GMA that we were planning with our Extraordinary Earth. All really important things. It's not that I don't think that we should have been doing them, but I had packed everything all in one. And I've been doing this since I was in middle school. I am Marsha Brady, where you sign up for every single thing and then feel overwhelmed and feel, so in that guilty way, I think a lot of us were like, you kind of take that breath, and then you realize why you're taking that breath, and it's the worst reason ever. But you have to take that lesson from this, no matter what it is. And I'm grateful that I'm working. I'm grateful that I have these opportunities, but I have to look at how I do that, because number one, the relationship I have with my 2-year-old is considerably different than it was 6 weeks ago. And that needs to be the lesson that I take with me after this.
Well, and I love to watching. I mean, because I think you're one of the first. I don't know, network celebrities. I mean, I know you don't like that word, but network celebrities that actually lets people see inside. Like, we didn't know what was going on with, I don't know, Bryant Gumbel or whoever it was. It doesn't matter. But you show. I mean, you do videos at home. You do pictures. You and your husband are all doing all sorts of fun stuff, and you do cooking, and you're doing all kinds of different things. And so when I told people that I was going to interview, they're like, there were so many women that are like, oh my God, I love her. She's my favorite, because you're so real. And we haven't really experienced a lot of that up until this point. Now, I think more people are doing it now, but I mean, I think you're doing it and doing it more than most. And it brings a different connection for you with people that are at home watching you.
I think so. It allows us to have that rapport and that relationship that we wouldn't have had, me doing my job in Flint, Michigan, almost 20 years. Completely different relationship with viewers. You would have a random phone call to that WEYI's number, and it would come in, and it would be, somebody from somewhere. But it was the start of email, but most people didn't email yet. And you didn't get that immediate response, nor did you have the ability to connect with people. What I've really loved about social, and especially after I wrote my book, I've had people DM me something, and often as heavy as, "You saved my life." And I'm like, what? But that relationship and that back and forth that then we are able to have, that we never would have had the opportunity to safely do before, opens these doors. And it has helped me heal even more in mental health ways. But it's also helped me then have this, connection for life with these people. And that's something I really, really enjoy. The best and the closest I could do back in Flint was like being in a parade in the back of a pickup truck on a bale of hay. That was about as connected to communities as I could get. But
well, and here's the thing too. I know there are. Well, first of all, I know that you've been very open with your battle with mental health, and that was what your first book. You had mentioned that, and then we'll talk about the Chasing Helicity series, which is now that you're in the third book of that, which is an amazing book. I just started reading it over the third one over the weekend, and I've ordered all 3 of them now for my kids. And they're not really kids books because they're 200 pages. But they're like 12, 13-year-old kids. And I'm sure a lot of this is based on you, because her hometown is Western Michigan. Your hometown is Western Michigan. How much of Chasing Helicity is in you?
Yeah, so these books, the target age is 8 to 12, and I started it there because 8 years old is when I fell in love with weather. And I think that it's a really great time in a child's life to not only start to really realize, like when I go to schools and I talk, I love that 3rd grade age, because they know how the sun and the earth interact, and they're ready to learn, and they're hungry for all this information. And that's what I was when I saw thunderstorms come across Lake Michigan when I was 8. That summer, I went back to 3rd grade that next school year, and I was diving into the encyclopedia. And I know you've got a lot of young, listeners, viewers. The encyclopedia is like Google, but a bunch of books.
Right.
And so it was just grab like the water spout or the tornado section, and I would just hoard that over at my desk. And that's when I knew that I had a real passion or interest for it. That's something that I put directly into the character of Helicity. Helicity is me with a hyper reality built in storms that I've lived since. And so it took me almost 40 years to learn the life lessons and to face some of these huge natural disasters. But it's going to take Helicity only a couple of years. And that's what I'm hoping that the reader can take away from it, whether they're an adult or an 8-year-old or a 12-year-old reading the book, that they can come away saying, oh, okay, that planted a little seed in my head that this is, whatever it is that she's learning in that moment, as well as learning about the storms, because of course there's tons of science in there, and that was really important to me.
Well, and the other thing is, you're not just a beautiful face. I mean, you've lived this your whole life. Even when I knew you 20 years ago, I mean, you were storm chasing. You're a scientist. You're a meteorologist. And I notice sometimes It's crazy how mean some, like we talked about, how having this personal relationship with people now that you didn't have before. But I see you post every once in a while about just these mean comments you get about your dress or about your hair. And you know, I've been around TV people my whole life, so I know men don't get that. It's only a woman thing, and it's usually from other women. It's crazy how people just I don't know. They don't mind sharing goofy things like that you wouldn't say to someone on the street, but yet they don't mind saying it to you. And I know that you've had to battle that a little bit.
Oh yeah, no, I think everybody who's in any sort of public has had to, but now I think it's really relatable for kids because everybody is on
Mm-hmm.
TV. Everybody has that spotlight on them and everybody has viewers. And so what especially like a 12, 13, 14-year-old is living right now in social media is what I learned starting 20 years ago. And so I think I've taken those lessons and I've injected them into some of what Helicity does. And that is mostly finding your own identity that's independent of your career, that's independent of the dress you're wearing, realizing that what other people are saying about you can take criticism. And I do like taking criticism. In fact, sometimes I really love those messages now because I find
Here's what I think, because you've been dealing with it so long, I've been dealing with it so long, it doesn't affect me, or it just doesn't affect me like it might most people, because I can keep it in perspective, and I know that I'll get 100 nice comments to every one comment. So 1% of somebody, I just really can pay it no mind, and I think that I can do that, you can do that, but maybe the average person can't do that because they don't have as much experience with it. But for me, I mean, it's just no big deal. It's a day at work.
I don't listen to the positive or negative, and that's the way to get around it is that you have to put your own positivity in yourself and your own criticism of yourself. And once you get into your own little circle and use your boundaries on the outside, that's usually what I do with those guys. I put a big fence up. I'm like, well, that's very nice. That over on the other side of the fence. I'm going to be over here thinking I like this dress because I picked it out and I don't really care.
Well, I'm sorry, go.
Ones that sting, and there's ones, but the ones that sting, I always ask myself, why does this sting? Is there reality in it? Is there something, or is this a confidence issue that you still haven't dealt with? And then I'll just go straight to my therapist to be like, listen, here's what happened this week. And also something that I think was really important for me making Helicity is that, growing up, I was lucky. I had a mom in science. Very few young girls and young people have scientists to look up to. I think that until I saw Helen Hunt in Twister, I didn't know what I wanted to do with meteorology. I needed that image. And so I'm hoping that Helicity gives that positive image of someone or something that these kids can grow into. And, I grew up with watching Mr. Wizard, and then there was Bill Nye for the next generation. And I think it's time for a woman to be that. So if it's Helicity, or if it's me, or however we get there, I think that's the next goal. And that way we don't have to worry about what everybody says, because we're like, okay, that's great. I'm here with me and my storms and whatever it is that you care about.
Right. Well, and the cool thing about chasing Helicity series, especially this third book, Through the Storm, is that you talk about social media bullying, and you talk about addiction, and these are things that, God, as kids, I try to think that I didn't have to deal with them, but I think at 12 and 13 I did have to deal with them. I just, you don't remember, but you're more sensitive to it when you have kids that are that age, which I do, and you see all the stuff that they have to go through, and you have to get to them early because it's all happening earlier.
Well, that's the thing is, we've talked a lot about opioids, and if we can include something like that in a book for this age. And when we looked at the numbers, I mean, more kids are going to be impacted by the opioid crisis than they are by a hurricane. And so, yes, it was responsible to teach them about the weather, but probably even more responsible to open up the dialogue about people having addiction issues. Because also, it doesn't have to be pills. It could be alcohol. There are a lot of crossovers that maybe a child reading this could say, you know what, that's in my home, or that's my cousin, or that's my uncle, or whatever it is. And so they can feel that relatability, but then maybe know something to do with it and perhaps have a little something. So that was important to me. It was also a storyline that comes out of my life at one point in an abusive relationship that I was in. And I was able to draw a lot of inspiration from that person. And also how much I still loved and cared for that person, despite all of the terrible things that went on. And so I think that those through lines are important for kids and for adults, anybody who's reading the series.
And a lot of, well, it's interesting. We're going back and forth between you and Helicity, but I think that there is so much meld there. You can't help but do it. But I love how you mentioned your therapist a little while ago, and how finally it's becoming okay to talk, hey, about therapy. And my wife has to take antidepressants, and she's a different person, just a completely different person now that she does that, and she has her therapy every week. And it's crazy that there was this stigma about that for so long in this society. But I tell people, well, if you've got diabetes, you take diabetes medicine. If you have high blood pressure, you take high blood pressure medicine. There's nothing you're not ashamed by those. Why would you be ashamed at having to take medicine for something else? And I really think that that's the way we need to look at it. And hopefully as a society, we are starting to look at it like that.
So I think I think the stigma is almost through on saying it, admitting I have anxiety, I have depression. That's become okay. I think where we need to get is, you started touching on it, as the action. So I take medication, and I went to the hospital, and I had inpatient therapy. If that can start to be as sexy as alcohol and drug abuse, I think that we're really going to make a breakthrough for mental health. That, and not just making it sexy, but making it affordable, and that you can find it. Right now, if you have a moment like I did in my crisis moment when I checked myself into an inpatient hospital for mental health, there are really only hospitals and psych wards, and they're not going to keep you very long. There are very expensive, one or a couple of them in the Southwest that you can go to. I think my next, push in life is to make the help. Because if you, like you said, if you had a broken leg, you have to go to the hospital first. And why me going to the hospital made such a difference, because I've been to therapy for 15 years, different therapists on and off, all these things. Going for 5, 6, 7 days at once allows somebody to assess your needs. It allows you to be realistic and honest with yourself about how much help you really need. And then, just like you would go with a broken leg, you would then get recommended to an orthopedist or whoever it is that follows up to do the physical therapy. The doctor for your type of mental health is critical. That's when I finally got help, when I finally got a therapist that was made for the type of mental health that I needed help with. And so I think that that centralized area and destigmatizing the action that it takes to get there. If you today say, you know what, I need to go check in, just like you would have to if anything else happened, it would be the ability for society to say, okay, you're gone for a week or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever it takes. And then that help that you're getting is going, I think, for most people, whether it's medication or it's the type of therapy, is going to set you on a path that's going to actually get you out. Versus, I'm going to do a half hour once a week and see how that goes. Helpful, but maybe not going to get to the root of the problem. And so I'm hoping that we can change that.
And also, my wife says something, when I get frustrated with her, she'll say it's frustrating to her that you can't see mental illness, because you're not going to get frustrated with someone if they're not walking, but they're in a cast. Oh, come on, why aren't you walking? Well, but with mental illness, you don't see it, and you get in the heat of the moment, so you don't have that compassion that you should for someone else, because you just can't see it.
And then you get frustrated with yourself. And I think that's the other thing, is that as much as you have it, it's still something that I question within myself. Sometimes when I have that off day and I start to feel it, I know my first triggers and the moments I should look for, and I know what I'm supposed to do. But there's usually a half hour where I kind of question, and I'm like, do I really want to go there? Do I have to go tell Ben? Do I have to tell my mom? Okay, and then I have to talk myself into it. So I think talking other people into it is an even harder hurdle to imagine, but it's worth it. And I can say time and again that every single time. And hey, what's the worst thing? You feel better, later that day, right?
Right. Speaking, you brought up your husband, Ben Aaron, who's got his own following in his own right. He got way more cool points for me last week when I saw him. Actually, I didn't know he was like a club DJ, like he knows how to mix music and all that stuff. And he was doing it in your closet and killing it and doing an awesome job. And then you had to come in at one point and be like, it's too loud. Can you turn it down? The babies are sleeping. The baby's sleeping.
Yeah. Been DJing since he was like 12, and so he fell in love with it. He used to go to camp up in upstate New York, and they had a bunch of European counselors, and so they introduced him to like old school house music, like late 80s, early 90s. And he fell in love with that music and then fell in love with the art of DJing. And so he would like lug around the old big, like real DJing before it got super easy. And now he's like, oh my God, it's nothing now. It's so easy and anybody can do it, but he's enjoying getting back into it. That's what he's been using this kind of extra time for, is closet DJ.
Well, and everyone has to. You have to find other interests that you can put your time in, because you spent so much time doing whatever it was, whether it was work or whatever you're doing outside of the house. There's just so much free time now. Everyone's picking up these other things that they either hadn't done in a while or trying something new.
I know. A lot better than me like picking up the oboe, which would have been the parallel time back then. I don't think anybody wants me in a closet with an oboe right
now. No, probably not. I don't know. I think you'd still get viewers. Okay, I wanted to talk about the coronavirus. Obviously, that's why you're in your basement. That's why you're at home. One of your coworkers, George Stephanopoulos, ended up having the coronavirus. How did you find out, and how did that hit you when someone that close that you sit right next to for years, all of a sudden comes out and he's got the virus?
Well, before George and Allie, his wife, were positive for the virus, my son Adrian's teachers tested positive, both of them. And so we all got sick for 3 weeks. So we were assumed positive because we had all of the classic, symptoms. Our respiratory issues were not enough at that time because this was the first 3 weeks of everybody being home. They told us that we would not get a test, and we were not to get a test. So I put in a request with the health department. And 2 weeks after I had called during my coronavirus symptoms, then I was offered a test and they said it wouldn't likely show anything. So basically we were assumed to have it as well. And so I was not at all surprised that more people at work were, testing positive. And I think just with how concentrated everything was in New York City, I wasn't surprised at all. What I was incredibly happy about was the night. So I'll go back to the beginning. Basically, the week before, after everything started to go down, we went and we knew coronavirus was coming up, just like everybody kind of did. It was that week that everyone was making decisions of maybe sending people home the next week. Mm-hmm. And our 2-year-old threw up, and he's never thrown up in his whole life. And we were like, well, that's weird. And then he ended up having 3 days of other stuff, all GI. And we never thought, because nobody was talking about GI being a symptom of coronavirus at that time. That Thursday, and I was at work this whole time, that Thursday, Adrian got a fever and a headache, and he's never had a headache. And he kept saying, my forehead hurts, my forehead hurts. And so I was like, I better not go in. Like, who knows what this is? And I don't know what we're going to think. And then the next day was that Friday. And then the following week was when they were like, we're going to send as many people home as possible. So we started doing the at-home setup as of then. And then that, like a week after Adrian, both Ben and I came down with it. Our nanny, who goes to the school every day as well, she Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was out because she was fever, sick, had the headache, had all of the symptoms. So, I'm pretty sure we all had it. And wow. People are like, I think I had. No, it's like we had 3 weeks of terrible body aches. The bottoms of my feet would wake me up, and Tylenol was the absolute best thing. So
wow.
George was healthy and asymptomatic, and Allie made it through because I know, everybody's different, and it sounds like it's person different. So you're so worried about it. The other thing that's hard though is it sucked not to get a test, to know that there are so many people like us that we're not privy to a test to know. And so now, not that the people who have had it know for sure that they are immune to it, because we still don't know that. Mm-hmm. But it felt like, the inequivalent part of it, or, my mom got tested and she barely had a sore throat in Michigan. Granted, she works in the hospitals and as a nursing professor, so she had reason to. But that testing part is so critical. And if we can get to that antibody stage and know that the antibodies mean something, I'm going to feel a lot more confident with my children and myself and Ben and everybody to go.
Right. The other thing is, I want to say that people, I want to thank you for taking time to do this with me, and just how down to earth and how amazing you are, because you really are one of the most influential celebrities on television. I know you don't like that word, But and you get things done. You like I know how important you are, because if you put me on an email chain, there's an answer within 60 seconds or something, because I think that's how important you are. But you're the type of person that doesn't take advantage of that. You realize this amazing platform that you've been given, and you're not the type of person to take it for granted, and you realize how blessed you have been. And that's the vibe that I get knowing you personally, and I think that that's really cool. Like, you're not the type of person that's going to call up a restaurant and be like, I'm Ginger Z, I need to get in tonight, like something that I would do. You would never do something like that.
Does that? My mother-in-law. And she does it well. She's the best ever. I need to have her around, because right, that is not my style at all, and I have a really hard time with that stuff. But I also take a great responsibility. I think it hurts me a lot of times. People, run me over, or they don't respect me, whether it's because I'm supposed to be like everybody else that's around me, and I don't think it's ever going to happen. As much as I try to be hard, and I can't. So this is me. I'm going to go with it, roll with it, and hope that positivity and optimism and all those things win out. And I appreciate you saying that. So thank you.
Well, I know so many women in television, and you have to have this hard edge to survive, and they come off hard, and you're like, hey, that's not who I am. I'm going to be myself. And the way I always see it, Ginger, is I'm very trustful of people. And it's burned me on occasion, and they'd be like, "You can't be so trusting." I'm like, "Dude, I'm not changing who I am now. I'm too old. That's who I am." And if I get taken advantage of, that's their issue, not my issue. And that's the way I see it. I mean, if they're taking advantage of you and they're running over on top of you, that's their issue, not your issue.
Yes, agreed.
And also, one other thing, we went to order your book on Amazon the day it came out last Tuesday. Completely sold out. I could not even get a copy on Amazon. Congratulations, that's amazing.
But that's probably not 100% right. I bet they might have. Sometimes they do that. There's some strange things about publishing, but I'll get you one if you want it.
Oh, we ordered I ordered the whole series for my kids, and then also the first book. My wife is a huge fan of yours, and so she got we ordered your first book. So we ordered all four. I think you only have 4 books, right? You have the one on you, and then the 3 Chasing Felicity books. But we bought all 4 of them last week.
That's so sweet. Thank you for supporting.
It's amazing. And thank you for everything you do. Thank you for taking time to talk to me. Congratulations on all your success and still being you.
Thank you. It's so good again. Great to have old friends in the business. Congrats on everything. Congrats on the, everything that happened at post-engagement. The baby too. Say hello to everyone.
I will. Thank you. Love you. Thank you, Ginger.
Here.
All right. Bye-bye. There it is. Ginger Z. Oh, that was fun. Such a great woman. Thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate it. If you missed any of it, we're going to put it into our podcast, so download it wherever you get podcasts. Or, of course, if you want to view it again here, it's going to replay or whatever. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. And we'll see you tonight at 9 o'clock for our regular